And welcome to today's Tomorrow Talk Zoom edition. I'm your host, Kristen, and today I'm joined by special guests Addie and Trevin. Due to the coronavirus, we aren't able to be in our regular studio, but don't worry, the show must go on, but from a safe distance. On today's episode, we'll be discussing whether or not student athletes should be paid and if scholarships count as payment. Our guests today have watched and analyzed various forms of media surrounding the subject, from articles to news segments. To begin our discussion, let's take a quick look at a clip which explains the issue.
National Collegiate Athletic Association. The NCAA oversees student athletes from across the country. It also organizes athletic programs for American and Canadian colleges. And the NCAA brings in roughly $1 billion per year in revenue. But it's a not-for-profit organization. It says it gives 96% of the money it takes in back to schools. Still, the schools themselves profit from sports, and the NCAA doesn't allow college players to sell autographs or make money off their YouTube channels.
Well, as you can see from that clip, this is a very controversial topic with good points on both sides. Let's see what our guests have to say on the topic.
So the whole thing about the students shouldn't get paid, I kind of agree with it in a certain aspect. I don't think that the school should necessarily pay for the students because they get scholarships and grants, but the students should be allowed to kind of money off their own name or likeness. So their YouTube channel is their personal thing. I think that they should be able to get paid, or if they get like a commercial deal or a video game thing, I think that's fine. But I don't think the school should pay for them. I don't think it would be a smart move in the sense of, if the school's small, they won't have enough to pay anything, and tuition rates might rise and other stuff like that.
I definitely feel like student athletes should be paid. They make too much money for the school to not get paid. Like, some programs can make up to like $20 million a year, and students make 0% of that. I mean, scholarships cover like their classes and stuff, but the most you could probably make from being a student is probably like, tuition doesn't go anything higher than 6 figures. So I mean, for them to make millions for the school and receive nothing, like schools sell jerseys, they sell things with these like kids' name on, like they sell like brochures and stuff like that. So it's like, for them to not make anything from their likeness is where I see this not fair.
Well, I kind of agree with that, but the thing is, so roughly around 350 athletic departments, about only 24 schools generate enough more revenue than expenses. So like the nation's top 5 conferences they make over like $6 billion, billions more than other schools combined. So for the schools that don't make that, like don't have enough revenue to make, and they have more expenses, then that means they'll have to rely on getting $1 million in debt, funding from their main campus and their student fees. And even with that help, it might not help the major athletic department. So it still kind of like hinders everything.
So the NCAA says that they give 96% of the money they get back to their schools. So how would that affect your opinion, Trevin?
I still feel like, so even Longwood, I don't think Longwood makes I don't think they make more revenue than cost, but they still sell things inside like stores like Walmart that produce revenue for the school, and it's like basketball t-shirts, just things like that. And that's things that like the athletes put in the work for.
Do you think that this, though, if there's like a school that does, like say Alabama, huge football school, and compared to, not necessarily Longwood, but another school that plays football that doesn't make that much money, do you think that this is like, there's not going to be as many athletes wanting to come to smaller schools because they won't get paid as much, and they, their names won't be out there as much? So does that create an unfair playing field for any small school that doesn't have the same amount of money as a bigger school?
I wouldn't say it creates a small amount of play for. I mean, Alabama is one of the biggest colleges, not only because of their name, but they're successful at what they do. So they kind of built their name. So you can't like differentiate like other schools making a name for themselves than other schools. So I feel like students should be paid. I don't think everybody should be paid the same. I think it should be paid based on like what their school can afford to give them. But I feel like something's better than nothing, and especially with how much they contribute to the school.
Well, that's kind of the thing, though. It wouldn't be fair. So if you have a small school that can't pay as much, they're not going to get a lot of athletes that will go to them. More people are drawn to higher pay rates. So if I was an athlete and I was good, I wouldn't go to some small school that couldn't pay me anything. I would try to go to the big school that's going to pay me a lot more. And that could ruin, their whole college experience and stuff like that, or their curriculum and their studies. Because ultimately, the athletes go to college for school. Yes, it's going to be harder for them because they have to do so much training and games in a way that they might get the whole experience. But that's just another factor to play into the whole fact of getting paid. It could just ruin the college they originally went there for.
I mean, students still go to smaller schools. I mean, just because a school can make more doesn't mean a student can automatically go there. I mean, coaches still pick their teams. So just because a school makes more than a school that has offered you doesn't mean that you can just automatically go to that school because they make more. The school still has to want you.
Thank you. You both bring up some really good points about the topic. We're going to take a short break, but stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Next, we're going to be focusing on the reasons why student athletes should be paid. Trevin, you did some of the research on the positive. Please tell us your thoughts and if you are in favor of these ideas.
I'm definitely in favor of athletes being paid. Let's think of an athlete named Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson was probably one of the highest recruited players coming out of high school. And he generated like a lot of money for Duke because he was probably one of the most exciting prospects to come out. They've compared him to LeBron James. So like, every game that Duke played was nationally televised. And you got to think about sold out arenas, merchandise. Like he generated a lot of money and was not paid for anything. And at any point, he could have gotten hurt and lost his scholarship, his career, and anything. Like there's no insurance for the athletes who are putting everything on the line.
Right. So how do you think that by paying athletes in college is helping them to, be prepared for those instances where they might have an injury, and there's been many athletes that, they don't know how to financially handle all this incoming revenue. So do you think that by paying them in college, that's, giving them that first step and understanding how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think paying them in college would better suit them for when they get to the NBA or like any other professional league, because a lot of these athletes get into the league and are throwing millions of dollars and go bankrupt within years because they don't know what to do with it. And it's because they didn't make any money in college and they were struggling in college, and when they got to college and to NBA started making real money, they didn't know what to do with it. So I feel like if they pay these students earlier and actually teach them how to use their money, then a lot of these cases wouldn't be occurring like this.
Do you think that, so if these athletes are being paid, then do they get a scholarship? If they're being paid, do they have to, pay for their own housing and food? Should they be responsible for that, or should everything be taken care of for them?
I still think like they should get their scholarship, but they shouldn't be paid significantly over their scholarship, but they should still be their scholarship and like still be compensated for the things that they do.
Addie, why do you think agree with this, or would you disagree?
It's kind of in the middle, like with the whole thing with financially and stuff like that. I agree with that. It is kind of hard if they make it big and then they have to deal with all this money coming in and all this fame and stuff. But with the whole scholarships thing, if they're getting paid a certain amount of money, I don't really see how like a scholarship will do with that, because if they make money they have something to pay, and that scholarship can go to someone else. But if they know they're in high school and they're applying for different kinds of scholarships, not a specific one for athletes or something like that, I would think that's fine, because, you know, everyone should have a chance to get a scholarship. It's just, you have to factor in, like, they're getting paid, so how much would that scholarship really be if they're already getting a certain amount of money?
Um, so I think that we have a that addresses this, um, these positives that Trevin was talking about.
They are fundamentally exploited by a system that makes not millions of dollars, but billions of dollars, and that enriches everybody around them except themselves.
But athletes, if they make it, make millions of dollars.
Sure, the very small 5% who make it from college to the pros will get very rich. What about the other 95%?
So after watching this video, it kind of gives the idea that, you know, maybe paying these students is kind of not giving them a reality check of what's to come, because not everyone's going to become a professional athlete. So is maybe paying them detrimental to their reality and what they should expect after college?
I definitely agree with what he's saying. So in college, you got to think about athletic directors are paid, commentators, coaches, trainers, like
All right, looks like we're having some technical difficulties.
allowed on the most. What does that look like as a company?
Addie, what are your thoughts?
So even though a lot of the coaches and everybody get paid, that's their job description. Like, they are a coach, they coach everybody, they have to make the money to make a living. But the student athletes are students, and if they become kind of an employee, the student teacher to student coach kind of line gets skewed. It becomes an employer / employee, and so you think it'd have to be some kind of treatment kind of way, because they might end up forgetting that these are students that have classes, that have homework, and they might push them harder since they are getting paid more. So they're going to push them to win more games and practice harder, and that might affect their schoolwork and their teachings and stuff like that.
Trevin, do you think that you know, the process of getting into colleges, like, do you think that it might, you know, kids might, you know, it'd be more competitive in possibly a negative way to get into college, because now it's not just a game to play, it's a living. And so I feel like, I don't feel, but could there be bad side effects to this, and that students are, you know, having a more competitive atmosphere that's not necessarily healthy?
Going to what I said, I don't feel like they'll be pushed to win more games, because you got to think about it, that's what they're supposed to do anyway. Like, no matter if they're paid or not, if you're an athlete, your job is to go out there and try to win. So I don't feel like it'll create any competition because they're getting paid. It's just what they're supposed to do. So if you're an athlete and you're going out there to compete, you're competing to win. So that shouldn't change whether you're getting paid or not.
Thank you both for your thoughts. I think we can all agree that this is definitely an interesting topic with multiple viewpoints. Don't tune out just yet. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. To end our discussion today, we're going to be talking about, should student athletes be allowed to come back?
A part of me wants to say yes, but part of me wants to say no. Yes, I feel like they should come back, because since this whole thing has blown up, their senior year got cut short. They weren't able to play everything they were, you know, basically guaranteed that they would play and not get the experience. But it also kind of takes away from the freshman's experience, because they're about to lose a whole season, kind of, in the sense, to get a feel for what they're about to expect. So it's kind of like an iffy situation. I kind of want them to come back, because personally, if I was there and I was an athlete, or just in general, I would want to come back and really get the senior year I deserved. But I kind of also feel bad for the freshmen for getting for a season.
Kevin, what are your opinions on this?
I think they should, and I personally don't feel bad for the freshmen. I mean, you can't just think about yourself. Everybody was affected in this situation. I mean, yeah, think about this: somebody who was here for 4 years and expected to be here for 4 years, and their fourth year got cut short. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad or upset if I was a freshman. You have to just realize, like, I'm not only affected by this, so is everybody. I mean, you gotta look. It could be a variety of reasons why somebody would want another senior year. Maybe he got injured at the beginning of his senior year, and this eligibility rule can give him time to get healthy and have the senior year that he wanted to begin with. So I mean, it helps a lot of people and it also hurts a lot of people, but it's nothing that we can do about it at this point in time.
So I'm hearing a lot of people saying, like, we had expectations, but there's nothing's guaranteed in life. And so to say we have expectations that need to be filled, is that even really fair to say? Because in a time like this, no one can guarantee anything. So is it fair to kind of like change the way the system works just so certain people can, get that time back when the time's already passed? Shouldn't they just move on and, kind of like start their next year?
Some seniors will move on, depending on their pro status. And some seniors don't really care about their senior season being lost. I mean, they'd rather go straight to the pros anyway to get paid. But some people, this senior year might be their chance to improve their draft stock and maybe get drafted. So I mean, it wasn't fair that it was taken away from them. So I mean, it's a lot of different circumstances for different people. So it just all depends on how you use this chance.
What do you think, Addie?
He makes really good points. With that whole fact of some people, might choose not to return. They don't see a point in it. They've already figured out their life. They've already either been drafted or found something else they're really passionate about. But for those who haven't figured out anything, or this is their last chance to either show their skills or just their last chance to just live their little dream. I mean, yeah, it kind of depends on what people want to do and what they're allowed to in the end.
This is definitely time for me because, when I was in high school, I lost my senior year because I was ultimately quarantined for my own physical health. And so it's kind of interesting being in this time where the whole world is quarantined, but I'm healthy. So I feel like, it just kind of is what it is. And I feel like, there's no point in moving backwards, and I feel like maybe going back is moving backwards in a way. Obviously, it's so devastating that, many people aren't going to get their senior year, but is it fair to only let the people who play sports have that opportunity? Because there's plenty of students who aren't in clubs and who don't play sports that want to stay at school, but they can't because there's nothing holding them there. Any thoughts? All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank you both for joining me and having a great discussion on this topic. Thank you for watching today's Tomorrow Talk. I'm your host, Kristen, and I'll see you next time.